All right.
Hello, everybody. Super excited. Today we have 𝗚𝗚𝗵𝗵𝗴, and she is truly just a gem. She has not only being a therapist, but her actual area of focus is so needed at this time and in regards to mental health and wellness. And for those of you that have been tuning in, you know, many of us have recommended in the past journaling, and we've recommended meditating and breath work, and we're striving to bring more of these practices to you, to the forefront of the conversation. And sometimes it can be hard to know where to start, or maybe why. You know, a lot of times for me to truly implement something, I need to understand, why does it matter? Why will it help? So if you're a curious monkey like this one over here, I always like to kind of get the facts behind the things that I'm implementing. And so, Allie, I know that you work with, and if you want to come off mute, of course, but I know that you obviously, you know, have been a mental health provider. How many years have you been doing this? Will you share?
Yes, absolutely. So as far as doing one-on-one therapy, I've been doing it for about 5 years. But my whole young adult and now adult career has been in the mental health field. I was very specific for the first handful of years before I moved to one-on-one therapy. Working with the autism population, initially starting with children, and then moving on to, I became really aware of the need that the mothers needed. So that kind of swayed me from working with children to working with adults. And then once I kind of moved into that adult world, that was where I felt like my calling was, and I felt the most comfortable. So roughly, 8 years-ish, I've been, that kind of wraps all of that up. But I've been working, with individuals with, especially children with special needs from a really, really young age. But like I said, I moved into working with adults and doing more like one-on-one type therapy about 5 years ago.
That's amazing. And I know that you see a big spectrum of people with all different types of life experiences. And so obviously you're well acquainted with the mental health advantages that so many different practices that we can put into place, and how those can impact us. But I know obviously we're experiencing something that, none of us have ever experienced before. We have never, been through a pandemic prior to this. And although many of us know these practices will help, we may have never started. We may be kind of sitting on the fence, curious. Or if you're like me, I had a really solid journaling practice, and it has fallen way off because of all the things that have become disrupted with this. So I'm just going to let you take it away. Share with us why it's important, and whatever you think could help us. We are here to learn and really hope to put it into practice into our everyday lives and see the benefits of it.
Perfect. Okay. So, sometimes I feel like the last thing we want to do is add something else to our plate in the middle. I mean, whenever, but especially in the middle of what's going on right now. So I'm just here to make this, if it's something that you're wanting to do, to figure out how we make it less intimidating or less, I certainly don't want it to be like a chore, right? I don't want it to be something that you have to add to your list or like something to check off. It might feel that way at first, but I want to encourage you to kind of like work through that a little bit. Maybe give yourself a good like 7 days to adapt to it. And then, you know what, if right now is not a good time, that's okay, because the stuff that I'm going to share is going to be stuff that you can take with you after we do start to see some normalcy come back. But the journal prompts that I'm going to share with you towards the end of my spiel here are very COVID and social distancing related. But you can always change those and manipulate those to be appropriate at a later time as well. So I think the biggest thing is I want to stress that I don't want this to be a chore, right? We want this to be something that that brings joy. So with that being said, that is, something that helped me when I had a little bit of blocking is find yourself a fun journal. So mine says bright ideas, angry rants, and other random crap. Just kind of fits my personality pretty well. So I found this one on Etsy. but Amazon is full of a ton of them. So maybe instead of just getting like a simple spiral notebook, treat yourself to have something that is just a little bit more fun. And then you can always get like fun markers or, you know, just to make it, if you need that creative outlet, which I know in the industry that you guys are all in, like creativity is huge. So, you know, it's more therapeutic at times to have more fun with it. At other times, once it becomes more of a habit for you, maybe those things go away. Maybe you don't care what your notebook looks like. Maybe you don't need to have like the extras. But if you're a beginner or you're getting reintroduced to journaling, those are just some tips to kind of make it more of, I guess, more fun. But I mean, the hope is that it's fun no matter what, right? But so there's a little bit of information about like how to maybe get in like the mindset to start the journey of journaling specifically during this pandemic. Okay. So, what are some of the benefits to introducing this into a somewhat daily or weekly routine of yours? So what that's going to look like for you is it's going to improve your symptoms. Now, I'm sure all of us are having similar symptoms, but different because we're all unique. Some of us may be feeling this in a way that holds more of depression. You know, maybe we're having a hard time getting motivated. Maybe we're having a hard time, you know, feeling connected. Obviously, we can't see our loved ones, so maybe these Zoom calls aren't really filling our bucket anymore, or some days they do, some days they don't. So maybe we're falling in that department. Maybe we're like super motivated and able to get out of bed and, you know, get dressed and, you know, get out and do walks, but we're super anxious about when is this going to end? What does the future look like? Is this ever going to go back to anything that, you know, I used to know? And then there's those of us, me being included, that kind of teeter between both of them, where I'm feeling anxious and I'm experiencing some depression. So by introducing and journaling regularly, those symptoms improve, you know, whether that's a decrease in anxious symptoms, decrease in depressed symptoms, things like that, right? So it's going to specifically start pulling apart and improving the symptoms that you're experiencing, whether you're experiencing them regularly, like every single day, or just sometimes. So that is, and all of this stuff is like science-based, proven. They've run lots of, what's what I'm looking for, research and testing on this. Now, overall, there is also a correlation with journaling about certain things, which we'll get into that in a second, that is going to increase positive mood. So if you did want to try using like a mood tracker within your journaling, which we'll talk about in a second, you'll see that you are just in a more positive mindset. Like if you use like a Likert scale, you know, 1 being I'm absolutely unmotivated and I feel really yucky, to 5 being like I'm having a stellar day and everything's great. The more you journal, the more likely you're in that 3, 4, 5 range, versus if you only journal every once in a while, you might be more towards those like 1, 2, 3s. Okay, so you're going to see an increase in positive mood. It helps you be productive and prioritize. So I'm not suggesting that you get a journal and you make it just this checklist, right? Because that can also cause anxiety, and that can also be, you know, we don't want that to be the only thing that you do in your journal is write down all the tasks that you need to complete and check them off. That is 110% okay if that's part of your journaling practice, but we don't want that to be the only thing that you're doing in your journaling. But it does help you stay on track and be get your priorities together, and it also provides structure. So if you're doing it every other day, if you're doing it every day, if you're doing it once a week, you're scheduling out that time, which during this pandemic especially can be really helpful for us, especially when we're experiencing that low motivation, to have it be something that is part of our routine. So it provides the ability to help you prioritize. Now, my favorite part about journaling, as someone who's like all about like self-discovery, and I really want to understand, I want to understand everything, which is impossible, but as someone who's motivated to do that, By journaling, you allow yourself the ability to better understand so much about yourself as a person. Okay, so things that you're going to be able to better understand are going to be your own behaviors. You know, why do you do certain things? Why do you say certain things? It can help you to understand your concerns and the things that we label as problems. I'm going to use quotes because that's like, I don't really love that word, but the things that we consider to be problem or problematic in our life, it helps us to understand those a little bit more because we're digging deep and we're pulling them apart. It allows for us to understand our fears and the things that provoke the anxiety. It allows us to understand the sadness that then often can lead to those depressed symptoms. And it really brings awareness to negative thought patterns, right? So and ideally with journaling, right? So you're going to journal, but then what's another great thing about it is you get to go back and refer back to it. So you get to use it as this tool to help understand yourself. So, you know, you start journaling and then maybe a month later you go back and you read the things that you journaled about. And that's when I'm saying, that's what I mean by you might be able to pick up on negative thought patterns, right? Because you'll see this trend in a certain topic or a certain emotion. So you'll be able to start pulling those things together and you will become aware of your own personal negative thought patterns. Everybody has them. It's okay. We need to normalize that. I think people think if they think negatively, that's a mouthful, that there is, that there's something wrong with them or that it's like super abnormal. And that's absolutely not true. We all have negative thoughts and we all actually have a negative thought pattern. And so that's why I love journaling, because it helps us to kind of figure those things out and see the trends that are happening. So that's kind of the importance and the benefits of it in a nutshell. And then two other things that I kind of wanted to share before I moved into the actual journal prompts that I created for you guys is that journaling can be super structured or it can be very unstructured. You know yourself best. You know what is going to motivate you, help, you know, increase your desire to want to journal on a regular basis. So you know what's best. You know if you're a more structured person to start that way, and maybe you do it that way for a while, and then you can start morphing into more of like the less structured, which is how I began journaling. And now I do both. Like if I'm feeling off and I know that I need to put a mood tracker back into my journaling, then that goes back in. But then if you look through my older journals, maybe for a month and a half, I did mood tracking, which was that Likert scale that I had mentioned earlier. 1 being I feel terrible, 5 being I feel great. And then all of a sudden I stopped doing it for a while because for whatever reason, I didn't think I needed to track my mood anymore. But then you flip through a handful of pages and the next thing you know, you're 6 months into that year and I added it back in. So what's great about journaling is you get to make it so personal for yourself. I'm jumping way back to the beginning of the conversation that we had. If you are a beginner and you are going to purchase yourself a new journal, you can actually purchase like super structured journals. You can purchase ones that are like kind of have prompts for you already to fill out, like, how are you feeling today? How much water have you drank? Those types of things. Give me 1 second. Go get dad. Go get dad. Sorry. So you can have things like mood trackers, checklist style stuff that I had mentioned to you guys, you know, where you can like maybe have a list and then there's check boxes if that's something that you're looking for. Positive affirmation and self-talk. Positive self-talk are also bubbles that you can put in. So maybe you just have, you know, like literally like a blank sheet of paper that doesn't have any lines or anything, but at the bottom you prompt yourself to say one positive affirmation about yourself, and you can write that in. And then also there are gratitude journals, which are specifically about obviously gratitude, right? So like what are things that you're thankful for and things like that. I like the structured journals, but I actually like to have like all those things that I mentioned all in one. So I just like, mine's blank sheets. I do prefer lines, but this one didn't come with lines. And then if I'm feeling like I need to track my mood, I'm going to. If I'm feeling like I need to check in with gratitude, then I'm going to. But mind you, I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of have the foresight of what I need and what I want. So if you guys want to purchase a more structured journal to begin with, that might be super helpful too. Now, the less structured journaling, my terminology for this, and this is just an Allie term that I use, is I call this like emotional dumping. And what that looks like is you're just going to open up the page. I don't care if you're spelling things right. I don't care if you're using punctuation. I don't care if you're swearing. I don't care if you're using all different colors. Like, this is just like, I'm having all of these feelings right now, which I am assuming that some of you are having that right now, where things are like totally fine, and then all of a sudden there's like this onset of panic. You know, the first of the month rolled around and it was like, oh cool, it's time to pay bills. Oh great, yeah, I'm a 1099 employee. How am I gonna pay my bills, right? So it's a perfect example of like, maybe the week before we were in a different headspace. As the first approached, we had all these feelings. So just opening up your journal and just dumping, just writing these things down, getting them out, giving them life. A lot of people who write music kind of talk about this. I'm certainly not someone who writes music, but they say that as they're trying to, like, these songs, they live inside of them, right? And I feel like that's how our feelings are. Our feelings, they live inside of us. They're in us, right? And they're kind of like, they poke like, hey, are you listening to me? Hey, are you listening to me? And sometimes we genuinely don't have the time to listen to them. Sometimes we deliberately avoid them, which is a different conversation. And sometimes they just like pop up and then they're just like, surprise, here I am. And I'm not gonna let you move on until we talk about this. So then opening up the journal and just getting them out, these musicians and these people who, you know, write these lyrics for these songs, they say like, there's actually like some relief once they get it. It's like they give it life, right? They like get it out on the paper. And I remember hearing that from someone when I was down in Nashville, and he had said that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get that, because I get that with journaling. You know, I couldn't completely relate to what he was saying, but I was like, that's how I feel when I do my emotional dumping. Like, that's it. Like, I just gave it a place to go. And then of course it doesn't go away, you know, you still have to like process through it, but it's definitely therapeutic to just kind of get it out. Before I keep going, I'm gonna open up to anybody have any questions, or anybody want to give any feedback about any of that so far?
I love it. And what's funny is like, I just moved down the hall and I found literally probably like 10 of my old journals the other day,
Oh,
including
okay.
like a lot of my like Qimin journals. And so it's been kind of like funny just going through them all. So
Uh-huh.
definitely motivating me to like re-journal.
Good.
I
I love
haven't
that.
in a long time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Is the Likert, Likert?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I want to look up that scale. I've never incorporated mood tracking in my journals ever. So I'm super excited to incorporate that.
Yeah, it's super therapeutic, and it also helps us like kind of understand. And some stuff is honestly like, it is hormonal or it is related to certain things. And that was something that I found beneficial to be able to figure out too, of like, I mean, I'm 8 months pregnant right now. So I re-added my mood tracker in the beginning of my pregnancy, not because I felt like I needed to, because, you know, when you're like brand new pregnant, it's all like fun before you start barfing and whatnot. So, I was like, I'm just going to start tracking this so I can see how this progresses. And it's interesting. And one thing that I also figured out by adding mood tracking, which hopefully Michigan is going to cooperate with us, I realized that my seasonal affective disorder was very different this year than it was prior years. And I'm connecting that maybe to pregnancy or what have you. But yes, mood tracking is really fun, and it helps you kind of start connecting some dots, which is really beneficial. Anybody else? Okay. So I am going to list a handful of journal prompts. I will also share these with you guys. I'm doing this on my phone, so I don't know how to put it in the comments, but I can send them.
You can send them to me and I'll put them in the Facebook group.
Perfect. And then they're also on, if you guys do move forward to follow me on Instagram, I made a post about journaling during the pandemic a couple weeks ago or like a week ago. And all of these also live on there. So you guys will find them that way. We'll get them to Lindsay so she can get them to you guys. And then you guys can always message me if you have any questions as well. So I have a lot, so I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to scroll through them and pick the ones that I think might be the most well-rounded for experienced journalers and new journalers. So, so the first one is, how am I feeling about everything that's happening in the world? That's like such a simple question, but it's very loaded, right? So that's a good one. You might want to revisit that one a couple times, actually. How am I feeling about how I am personally reacting to what is happening in the world? So those are very different questions. They seem very similar, but they're actually really different, right? Like we could have a feeling about like, okay, so how am I feeling about what's happening in general? How am I feeling about my reaction to what is happening, right? How am I feeling about the way that others are reacting to what's happening? So those could be a journal prompt that you knock out in one day, because they're all like correlated with one another, or those are things that you take apart and chew them over individually, separately at different times, whatever works for you. Now this kind of taps into like a gratitude journal prompt of maybe on a day when you are having those more depressed feelings and you're feeling super just drained and exhausted of everything that's been going on, to what I call brain flipping. So to flip our brain, to flip those negative thoughts, right? When we're going to flip those, a good question to always ask yourself is, what am I grateful for right now? Okay. And that's going to look different all the time. That might be something that you put into your structured journaling that you track every day, or every couple days. Not a bad idea to do it that way. But if it's just something that you're going to tackle in one sitting, sometimes it's simple things like right now, I'm so thankful that the sun is out. Like that, when I woke up this morning, the sun was out, like I got out of bed, like I mentioned, I showered and I did my hair, like it's just like instant, right? So I'm going to show gratitude to that. Some days it's really hard to find something that you're thankful for. And that might even be like, I'm thankful for my legs because they help me walk from my bed to get coffee from my kitchen. Like sometimes you have to just get like super, super basic, but sometimes it's big stuff, right? Like I am grateful for being able to share this information with you guys, to be able to network and do all of these things. And, that could lead into like such a big list of things to be grateful for when you look at something like that. So that's a good one. And then one that is a little bit thought-provoking and could be anxiety-provoking, but I would encourage you guys to maybe look at is like, what am I afraid of? Like pull that apart. What am I actually afraid of right now, right? What about what is going on? What about this pandemic? What about this virus am I afraid of? Dig deep into that. Because obviously we all know surfacey what this is, it's just scary in general, but like, why is it scary for me right at this minute kind of thing? I'll just share a couple more. Ooh, I like this one. Okay. What do I need for myself today? And what do I need to avoid? So knowing our wants and needs is really beneficial. Things that we sometimes maybe need to avoid are certain individuals in our lives, right? So maybe I need to avoid this person's fault today. I'll call them back tomorrow when I have a different type of energy, but today, not going to go there. So that's just an example. And then let's see. This is a good one. What have I learned about myself through this experience? So as you can see, a lot of these are going to prompt more positive thought patterns. I mean, as opposed to, the one that's like, what am I afraid of, could maybe challenge you on that. But for the most part, the journal prompts that I'm providing are going to be ones that are ideally supposed to improve positive mindset. That's something I really believe in. I'm a huge meditation person. Guided is really my thing. And when I do those guided meditations, they are like how do I stay in a good mindset, positive mindset, that type of stuff. So that's definitely, so a lot of my stuff, if you guys do begin to follow me, it is very much like we aren't always in control of everything, but we can be in control of how we react to things. And if we can do our best to react positively and stay in a positive mindset, it is better for our well-being. We do feel happier. There are benefits to that. Now that doesn't mean live in la la land and be naive, of course, but it just means like if you can find your, like I'd mentioned that word, brain flipping. If you can find a way to flip our thoughts, even in really, really bad situations, to be even just a little bit more positive, it is super beneficial for you as a person. And then that trickles down to all of the people that you connect with. I'll do one more, and then I'll get them sent over to you guys. Let's see. What do I want to share with you guys? So what am I observing happening in society? So like these can be like big changes versus what am I noticing in my community? And I like this one because I do think if we're watching the news or we're like seeing this as like a big thing, or we're getting certain things sent to us on social media, that the way that this is going and affecting our country and the world, that can be broken down and received as like a big negative thing, right? But I think when we break it down a little bit smaller and look at what's happening within our community, like I'm looking around when I'm out walking with my son and I'm paying attention to these things, and there's just more random acts of kindness that I'm seeing. And I know it's very isolated. I'm not leaving my house at all. So it's just what I'm seeing in like my close network. And I think that observing that and learning from that is beneficial. Like knowing like big picture things might be being made out to be very negative and things like that. But if we really look around at what's happening in our close-knit circle, there's lots of good that's happening too. So I'll flip it back over to you guys if you guys have any questions. And then after that, we'll wrap up. Yes.
Well, I just have to say, I've never asked myself such pointed questions, and I'm actually going to really appreciate that guidance right now to delve into the self-discovery of how all of this experience and all, each one of us, again, experiencing that in different ways, but really diving into how is it showing up for me, and doing that form of self-discovery. So I just want to say on behalf of everybody that's watching this live and joining in, and also in the future on YouTube, thank you, Allie, so much, because
Absolutely.
sometimes it's that beginning level of direction, having something right off the top to be able to launch into and start asking yourself for that internal inquiry. So I just wanted to say thank you from all of us.
Absolutely.
And I'll definitely post these, and I'm sure everyone's going to get tons of value from continuing to follow you. And you're so great in the way you word and the vision that you cast. And I definitely look to you as a soul sister for someone who's striving to create abundance and have a positive mindset and also be a light in the world. So thank you for showing up like that. And thank you for blessing all of us today.
Absolutely. It was wonderful to chat with you guys. And if you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll get these over to you so that you can get them posted for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.